The greatest tragedy of most lives is not failure, it is aimlessness. The man who wakes each morning and sets about his day without a clearly defined purpose is like a ship without a rudder, drifting on the ocean at the mercy of every wave and gust of wind. His course is determined not by his own decisions, but by the decisions of others, by chance events, and by passing distractions. To focus on yourself and not others is to first identify a burning purpose, one so consuming, so definite, that all idle comparisons and envy vanish in the light of your own mission. Definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all personal achievement. It is not merely having a goal, it is having a clear, singular objective that orders your thoughts, directs your energy, and demands your attention. A man who knows exactly what he wants does not waste time watching what another man is doing. He is too busy working, too obsessed with the vision of his own creation, too occupied with the execution of his own plan to concern himself with the temporary applause or possessions of others. When you lack definiteness of purpose, you fall into the habit of measuring your worth against the lives of those around you. You look to your neighbor's house, your colleague's title, or your friend's popularity to determine your own value. But none of these external reflections can define the true success of a man, for they are not built upon your desires, your principles, or your chosen direction. They are distractions, shiny objects meant to lure you away from the difficult task of deciding for yourself what you were put on this earth to do. To focus on yourself means to sit in quiet thought and ask, what do I truly want? What desire burns so strongly within me that it refuses to be ignored? What result am I willing to sacrifice for, to labor for, to persist in the face of every obstacle for? These questions require courage. For when a man knows what he wants, he can no longer make excuses. He can no longer blame the economy, his upbringing, or his circumstances. He must accept full responsibility for the pursuit of that purpose, and that responsibility becomes a source of power. A man with a definite purpose walks with a different stride. He is not disturbed by the gossip of the day or the envy of those who wander. He does not spend hours scrolling through another man's triumphs or lamenting his own pace. He measures progress by movement toward his chosen goal, not by the movement of others. His energy is directed inward, toward the growth of his mind, the strengthening of his will, and the daily execution of the tasks he has determined are necessary for his advancement. Definiteness of purpose gives you a lens through which all decisions are made. Should you take a job, move to a new city, invest time in a project? If it serves your purpose, the answer is yes. If it does not, the answer is no. The fog of uncertainty clears when you have a direction. The comparisons lose their power when your vision is clear. When you know where you are going, the pace of others ceases to matter. Whether another succeeds faster or slower becomes irrelevant, for you have chosen your mountain, and you are climbing it step by determined step. This mindset transforms the way you interpret failure. Without a definite purpose, failure is a blow to your identity. But with purpose, failure is a lesson, a feedback mechanism that informs your next move. It is not final, it is formative. It sharpens you, it prepares you, it teaches you something about your path that comfort never could. And so you do not quit. You do not doubt your value based on another's success. You stay the course not because it is easy, but because it is yours. The man who cultivates definiteness of purpose becomes immune to the disease of distraction. He does not waste his life chasing applause. He does not dilute his energy trying to impress. He is not driven by the noise of the world, but by the fire of intention. While others are comparing, he is creating. While others are observing, he is building. While others are following, he is leading himself toward a destiny he has chosen deliberately. There is no greater power a man can possess than the willingness to accept full responsibility for his life. This principle is not merely a virtue, it is the cornerstone of all success. The moment you place the cause of your condition outside yourself, on other people, on luck, on government, on your upbringing, or your environment, you surrender your power to change it. But when you accept that your results are the direct outcome of your choices, your thoughts, your habits, and your actions, you regain control over your destiny. To focus on yourself instead of others, you must first abandon the childish tendency to blame and embrace the mature discipline of accountability. No man climbs to greatness while clinging to excuses. Excuses are comforting lies we tell ourselves to avoid the labor of honest self-evaluation. They are shields that protect pride but destroy progress. Every time you say you can't succeed because of what someone else did or failed to do, you reinforce a belief that you are powerless. And a man who believes he is powerless will never summon the strength to act. To focus on others is to say, they determine my future. But to focus on yourself is to declare, I am the cause and I am the solution. Personal responsibility begins in thought. Every idea you hold, every belief you nurture, every story you repeat to yourself forms the blueprint of your reality. If you fill your mind with resentment, envy, or complaints about others, you block the creativity and discipline necessary for your own advancement. If you instead fill your mind with determination, vision, and self-reliance, you create the mental soil in which success can grow. It is not your neighbor's job to water your dream. It is not your competitor's obligation to slow down so that you may catch up. The progress of another does not prevent your own. But the moment you use another's success as an excuse for your stagnation, you betray your own power. No one owes you progress. No one owes you understanding or fairness or applause. The world rewards those who act, not those who wait. The man who rises above his station, who overcomes limitation, who builds greatness from humble beginnings, does so because he refuses to wait for someone else to make the path easier. He carves the path himself. He studies, he builds, he fails, and he tries again. He does not waste precious years lamenting what he did not receive. He spends them creating what he must have. That is personal responsibility. When you accept this principle, the actions of others lose their grip on your mind. Whether someone supports you or opposes you, praises you or mocks you, lifts you or leaves you, you continue. Their behavior may be relevant, but it is not decisive. Your decisions remain your own, and it is your decisions that shape your future. The weak man waits for ideal circumstances. The strong man creates them. The weak man blames conditions. The strong man adapts and advances regardless of them. Personal responsibility is not harsh. It is liberating. It removes the need for permission. It means you no longer wait for validation, for a break, for someone to give you a chance. You become the author of your effort, the judge of your progress, and the engine of your momentum. You do not ask, why won't someone help me? You ask, what can I do with what I have right now? This question asked daily will build more in a year than complaints will build in a lifetime. To truly focus on yourself, you must stop monitoring the behavior of others and start monitoring your own. How do you spend your hours? How do you speak to yourself when you are alone? What habits do you repeat each day that either strengthen or sabotage your purpose? What time do you rise? What books do you read? What actions do you take when no one is watching? These are the questions that form the foundation of responsibility. And it is these questions, not the achievements of others, that will determine your future. Every moment you spend watching someone else's life unfold is a moment stolen from the development of your own. The man who lives by comparison will always be at war with his own potential, but the man who lives by responsibility will always find a way forward. He sees problems as puzzles, not punishments. He sees effort as investment, not suffering. And he sees setbacks not as injustice, but as instruction. He learns, he adjusts, he endures, and in doing so, he becomes unstoppable. Let me know when you're ready for Keynote 3, the law of autosuggestion, and I'll carry it forward in this same tone. Every great achievement begins in the mind, and every lasting transformation is the result of a man taking control of the thoughts he feeds himself. The law of autosuggestion is the principle by which you influence your subconscious mind, by repeating, affirming, and impressing upon it the ideas you choose to dominate your life. The mind, like fertile soil, will grow whatever seed is planted in it. If you constantly dwell on the success, beauty, wealth, or talent of others, and allow comparison or resentment to take root, you are planting weeds that will strangle your own ambition. But if you focus instead on what you are becoming, on what you are capable of, and on the vision you hold for your own life, then the subconscious mind begins to work in harmony with that vision, bringing ideas, strength, and resources into your awareness that were once hidden. To focus on yourself and not others, you must train your mind to think thoughts that serve your purpose. This is not merely a matter of positive thinking. It is the deliberate and disciplined repetition of thoughts that are aligned with your goal. A man becomes what he thinks about most of the time. If he thinks of failure, of limitation, of what others have that he lacks, his actions will follow that belief. He will hesitate, doubt himself, and retreat from challenges. But if he feeds his mind daily with images of personal power, resilience, and achievement, he will begin to move with a quiet certainty, a calm determination that others may not understand but will eventually admire. Autosuggestion is the mechanism through which belief is formed. No man is born with confidence or courage. These are qualities built through thought, practice, and repetition. The voice you hear most often, your own, holds the greatest influence over your life. If that voice is filled with criticism, comparison, or the endless recounting of what others are doing better, then you are sabotaging your progress before action ever begins. But if that voice becomes one of encouragement, of command, of discipline and clarity, then your thoughts become your allies, and your mind becomes a tool instead of a tormentor. You cannot think one way and live another. A man who tells himself he is unworthy will never take bold action. A man who tells himself success is for others will never persist long enough to succeed himself. Autosuggestion bridges the gap between desire and belief. It is not enough to want success. You must believe it is possible for you. And belief is not something you wait for. It is something you build day by day by telling your mind the story you wish to make true. This is the internal work that most ignore while watching others rise. But no outer accomplishment is possible without inner alignment. And alignment begins with suggestion. Each day, you are either strengthening or weakening your mind. Every complaint is a suggestion to your subconscious that the world is unfair. Every excuse is a suggestion that you are not in control. Every time you speak more about another man's life than your own direction, you tell your subconscious mind that your life is less important. And over time, your mind begins to believe it. But you can reverse this process. You can speak new words. You can write new affirmations. You can choose thoughts that build and not break, that create rather than consume. And when those thoughts are repeated with emotion and belief, they begin to alter your identity. The law of autosuggestion demands consistency. You do not shape the mind with scattered effort. A single statement of belief once a month cannot undo a lifetime of doubt. But a committed emotional repetition of truth every day will carve new pathways in your thinking. Say to yourself what you wish to become, and say it as if it were already true. The mind does not distinguish between fact and belief. It accepts whatever is repeated with feeling, and in time the outer world rearranges itself to match the inner one. If you say to yourself each morning that you are focused, determined, and worthy of success, and you say it not as wishful thinking but as a command, your behavior will begin to reflect it. You will act in alignment with the suggestion. You will speak with more strength, choose with more clarity, and persist with more conviction. You will stop seeking validation in the lives of others and begin seeking progress in your own. You will not be concerned with how another man runs his race because you will be too invested in your own. Through autosuggestion, you become the master sculptor of your mind. And as the mind is shaped, so too is the life. There is no lasting success that does not begin with an internal shift in belief. When you focus on what others are doing, you place your attention outward. But when you harness the law of autosuggestion, you turn that attention inward, toward thought, toward belief, and toward purpose. And in that internal focus, you plant the seeds of transformation. The mind is man's greatest possession, and yet it is also the most misused. Most people live in a constant state of mental chaos, their thoughts scattered across dozens of concerns, comparisons, and distractions. They attempt to hold multiple ideas, emotions, and judgments in their minds at once, and in doing so, they dilute their power. Controlled attention is the discipline of directing your thoughts with intention. It is the act of choosing what to think about, how long to think about it, and why it matters. It is one of the highest forms of self-mastery, and without it, no sustained success is possible. To focus on yourself instead of others, you must first gain mastery over your attention. Your attention is the currency of your life. Whatever you pay attention to, you feed. What you dwell on grows. If you spend your days looking at the lives, victories, and failures of others, you are building their story, not your own. Every minute you give to watching someone else is a minute stolen from your vision, your work, your refinement. You cannot serve two purposes at once. You cannot build your dream while studying someone else's. Controlled attention requires that you make a firm decision about what matters to you, and then you discipline your mind to return to it again and again, no matter what temptations arise to lure you away. In the age of distraction, controlled attention is more valuable than intelligence. A man with an average mind and an extraordinary focus will outpace the genius who cannot control his thinking. The world is designed to scatter your thoughts, to fill your head with noise, to seduce your attention toward things that entertain but do not empower. The man who disciplines himself to concentrate on one major goal, one chief aim, one personal standard, becomes a rare force in a sea of mental drifters. He becomes difficult to distract, difficult to discourage, and nearly impossible to stop. Controlled attention is not about intensity for short bursts. It is about consistency over long stretches. It is the ability to return your thoughts to your purpose hundreds of times a day if necessary. Every time you catch your mind drifting into envy, comparison, or distraction, and you gently but firmly bring it back to your purpose, you strengthen your mind. You develop the habit of dominance over your own internal world, and a man who governs his mind will eventually govern his results. There is a law at work in the universe. Energy flows where attention goes. If you focus your thoughts on growth, on skill, on contribution, you will begin to notice opportunities where before you saw obstacles. You will begin to move differently, speak differently, carry yourself with greater clarity and conviction. But if you give your attention to the success of others with bitterness, to news designed to provoke fear, or to idle entertainment that produces no gain, your energy will be drained and your vision dimmed. Controlled attention is about guarding the gates of your mind and allowing only that which builds you to enter. The most successful individuals in history, regardless of their field, all possessed this same ability to block out the noise and center their thoughts on a chosen objective. They did not waste mental energy comparing their timeline to others. They did not scroll endlessly through the lives of people they would never meet. They focused on the next step in their own journey. They read what deepened their understanding, they studied what sharpened their edge, and they practiced what strengthened their will. Their success was not accidental. It was a consequence of attention applied with purpose and protected with discipline. To focus on yourself is to become a guardian of your attention. It is to become fiercely intentional about what you allow to occupy your mind. Most people allow every thought to pass through unchallenged. They entertain doubts, fears, complaints, and comparisons as if they are neutral. But thoughts are not neutral. They are builders or destroyers. Every thought shapes belief. Every belief shapes action. Every action shapes destiny. When you control your attention, you control the very foundation of your future. Controlled attention is a daily practice. It is not achieved in a single moment of inspiration. It must be trained like a muscle, through repetition, through reflection, through refusal to give in to the pull of the unimportant. You must ask yourself constantly, is what I'm thinking about helping me or hurting me? Is this thought moving me forward or keeping me stuck? Would the man I am becoming allow this thought to dominate his mind? These are not casual questions. These are tools of transformation, and they must be used often because the world will not stop pulling at your focus. The man who learns to direct and maintain his attention on his chosen aim will experience progress others cannot understand. While others are distracted, he is deliberate. While others are emotional, he is exact. While others chase novelty, he builds mastery. And mastery is the reward of attention governed with precision. Accurate thinking is the foundation of sound judgment and successful action. It is not simply the ability to think, for every man thinks, but few think with clarity, and fewer still with precision. Accurate thinking is the discipline of separating fact from opinion, truth from assumption, reality from illusion. It is the ability to observe without distortion, to reason without bias, and to make decisions rooted in reality rather than emotion or envy. Without accurate thinking, a man becomes a victim of mental confusion. He reacts instead of reasons. He guesses instead of analyzes. He judges himself by distorted comparisons, and in doing so, he forfeits the power of self-direction. To focus on yourself, you must first see yourself clearly. You must look into the mirror of your own life and strip away every false narrative, every borrowed belief, every emotion that clouds your vision. You must ask, what is real? What do I know to be true? What results am I actually producing? Not what do I hope to produce, not what others think I'm producing, but what is objectively true. This level of honesty is rare because it requires courage. Most people would rather look outward than inward. They would rather talk about the flaws of others than investigate the roots of their own limitations. But accurate thinking demands that you look inward first, that you base your progress on facts rather than feelings. A man who thinks accurately does not judge his pace by the speed of another. He understands that each man walks a different path, with different burdens, different beginnings, and different destinations. To compare one's chapter 2 to another man's chapter 20 is not only inaccurate, it is self-destructive. Comparison, when used without clear context, is a trap. It leads to feelings of inferiority or superiority that are based not on truth, but on illusion. Accurate thinking destroys this trap. It forces you to ask, are we even pursuing the same goal? Do we value the same things? Have we faced the same challenges? Is this a fair standard of measurement, or am I simply reacting to what I see on the surface? Thinking accurately requires that you separate emotion from analysis. Emotions have their place, but when allowed to lead, they distort. Envy is not a fact. Insecurity is not a fact. Fear is not a fact. They are feelings, and feelings must be examined, not obeyed. When you feel jealousy at another's success, the accurate thinker does not dwell in that emotion. He examines it. He asks, what does this reveal about me? Why does this result bother me? What can I learn from it? Emotion becomes a guide for inquiry, not a commander of direction. Accurate thinking also demands that you gather information before forming conclusions. Most people live on hearsay. They adopt beliefs based on what others say, what trends dictate, or what they feel in a single moment of discomfort. But the accurate thinker asks questions. He investigates, he studies, he waits to decide until enough facts are available to make that decision. This is especially vital when thinking about oneself. If you allow a single failure to define your identity, you are not thinking accurately. If you allow another person's comment to shape your belief in your ability, you are not thinking accurately. One result is not the sum of a man. One moment is not his measure. To focus on yourself is to think carefully about yourself. What are your actual strengths? What are your present weaknesses? What are the habits that support your vision and which ones contradict it? Are your daily actions in alignment with your stated goals? What do the results you are producing say about the quality of your thinking? These are not philosophical questions. They are tools of advancement. A man who thinks clearly sees patterns. He notices cause and effect. He connects behavior with outcome. And because he sees this clearly, he can correct course quickly. The world is filled with opinions, but very little of it is based on deep personal analysis. The accurate thinker is not swayed by noise. He does not accept a belief because it is popular, nor does he reject it because it is unpopular. He thinks for himself. He asks, what is useful? What is true? What is working? What is waste? He does not flatter himself with false praise, nor does he punish himself with exaggerated guilt. He sees things as they are, not better and not worse. This clarity allows him to move forward with confidence because he knows his foundation is not based on fantasy, but on fact. Without accurate thinking, focus is misdirected. You will chase goals that do not belong to you. You will fight battles that do not matter. You will spend years trying to win games you never chose to play. But with accurate thinking, your energy is directed. You no longer react to the world. You respond to your purpose. You measure progress by your own standards, and you adjust based on results, not rumors. Your thoughts become aligned with reality, and in that alignment, you gain power. Let me know if you'd like all 5 expanded keynotes combined into a single document, or if you'd like help continuing this as a full speech structure. The world will always tempt you to look outward, toward competition, toward comparison, toward distraction, but your greatest power lies inward. Every man must choose where he places his attention, where he directs his energy, and where he draws his identity. When you focus on others, you scatter your power. When you focus on yourself, you gather it. You build the habits, the mindset, and the vision that will carry you forward regardless of who is watching or what the world is doing. The man who takes full responsibility for his life, who feeds his mind with purpose, who directs his thoughts with intention, who sees through illusion with clarity, this man becomes unstoppable. He does not seek permission. He does not wait for ideal circumstances. He does not measure his worth by the pace or praise of another. He walks his own path, built by his own thought, driven by his own discipline, and refined by his own hand. In the end, success is not won by those who move fastest. It is won by those who move with focus, with courage, and with unwavering commitment to becoming the strongest version of themselves. Focus on yourself, not to ignore the world, but to shape your place within it, not to outdo others, but to outgrow yesterday. Not to escape challenge, but to meet it with a mind sharpened by truth and a heart disciplined by vision. Your life is your responsibility. Your thoughts are your foundation. Your future is waiting. Build it from within.